Are you ready to start your own show? Look no further than Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV's unbeatable hosting packages. We have hosting packages for all your live streaming needs. Introducing our basic, standard, and premium plans designed to fit your show's unique needs. With our basic plan, you get hosting and streaming only to Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV platforms, technical support, and a full hour of captivating content. Choose our standard plan, and you'll not only enjoy everything in the basic plan, but also receive promotions on our Facebook page and the freedom to stream to your personal platform, Facebook or YouTube. Your show, your choice. And for those who demand the best, our premium plan offers all the benefits of the basic and standard plans, plus the ability to multi-stream to your preferred platforms. That's right, the spotlight's on you. But wait, there's more. Are you planning an unforgettable event? Our events package is your ticket to flawless live streaming. From weddings to conferences, we make every moment count. Ready to shine on Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV? Reach out to us today at zbtr2009@gmail.com for questions, inquiries, or to create a custom one-time show package. Remember, at Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV, your success is our mission. All fees are subject to periodic review and change, ensuring you always get the best value. So, what are you waiting for? Let's make your show a sensation only on Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV. Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV, where vision comes to life. Follow our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Zambia Blog Radio or visit our website at www.zbtr2009.wixsite.com/ZBTR TV. Don't miss this opportunity to shine on ZBTR TV, where your vision comes to life.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. It is good to have everybody join us, and hope you are having a wonderful Saturday. All right, ZBTR is live. We would like you to tag a friend and let them know that we are live on the show. Today, we have a political discussion, and we have one of Zambia's leading political leaders, and they run a party, and they'll be joining us very shortly here as we get into a discussion. We would like you to join the conversation and let us know and engage Mr. KBF. Kelvin Fube Bwalya is our guest, and we'll be discussing his vision, the reason he got into politics, a prominent lawyer, a distinguished lawyer, and he's ready to join us here. And everybody, let me know where you're watching us from. Our Facebook, our social media handles are ZBTR TV. Tag a friend and let them know that we are live on ZBTR. This is going to be a candid conversation because the political discourse in our country demands that we engage our political leaders and have these conversations. All right. So having said that, let me play something here, and then we shall be getting into our conversation. Everybody, get ready. This is going to be an exciting conversation. Just watch this.
My name is Kelvin Fube Bwalya. I was born in a little mining town called Mufulira on the Copper Belt in the Republic of Zambia. Our town was usually vibrant. As I was born just before the end of colonialism, there was a bit of discrimination that was experienced by my parents and those of their peers that lived in Mufulira at the time. I was raised by my late father, Mr. Eric Benson Bwalya, who was married to his lovely wife, my mother, Florence Kasomo Bwalya, also the late now. I grew up in a very close-knit family. I grew up in a very loving family, and we were rooted in love and shared dreams, although we were once in a while hit by hiccups owing to my father's political life. Today, I am a proud father myself. I further studies and began to get interested in writing as I was learning much more about myself. I immersed myself in the legal realm, advocating for justice and defending the rights of countless individuals. In the courtroom, my name resonated among legal stewards. It was a space where words danced and justice prevailed. I also took up mentorship and began to mentor a lot of lawyers who passed through my hands, then having become a senior lawyer myself. I nurtured young lawyers who would go on to forge their own paths in the legal field and practice their law. I dare say some of them today are judges as high as the Court of Appeal. Beyond my faith is the cornerstone of my being. And at the time of my becoming a lawyer, I then decided that I needed to be a game changer for the country, because I had seen enough prosecution, call it persecution sometimes. I realized that we needed, as a nation, to begin to fight for what was right. As a political person, I joined politics full-time when I started supporting the movement for multi-party democracy. Eventually, Zambia reintroduced multi-party politics. As founder and leader of Zambia Must Prosper, I have operated behind the scenes, influencing 3 successive presidential victories. In 2011, I was part of a team that successfully put the Patriotic Front in government with the late Michael Chilufya-Sata as its president. In 2015, after his demise, we had a presidential by-election. I supported the candidature of the former president, Edgar Chagwa Lungu. As per constitution at that time, we then went for another election in 2016. He won those elections. As things stood, I began to change my perception about working with people in politics. I can successfully, therefore, and confidently and proudly so, say that I have managed to put into office 3 successive presidents. 1, 2011, Michael Chilufya-Sata. 2015, Edgar Chagwa Lungu. 2016, Edgar Chagwa Lungu. I believe that we can work together with the many Zambians who believe that change is inevitable and that we have started going on a wrong trajectory, that we must now change course and aim to change the course of Zambia for the better. And Zambia must prosper. Our firm belief is that when Zambians prosper, Zambia prospers. That we shall ensure comes to fruition. That we must do for the sake of posterity. Politically, my vision is to ensure that Zambians who are less privileged, the widows, the orphans, are lifted up from their suffering, because deep in me is a sense of belief that when Zambians prosper, Zambia prospers. I believe that with the whole of me that we can achieve this, because it is God's will that we must all prosper. Politically, I am the game changer. I am KBF, a name synonymous with legal excellence, a heart for the less fortunate, and a vision for a prosperous Zambia. For I stand ready to lead.
When Zambians prosper, Zambia prospers. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Kelvin Fube Bwalya, President of Party Zambia Must Prosper. KBF, welcome, my brother.
Good evening. How are you, Nathan? And how are you, viewers and everybody watching us, wherever you're watching us from?
Excellent. We are so honored and privileged, and you and I know that this has been a long time coming, right?
Yeah, you've been chasing and chasing. I know that, but here I am.
Here you are.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I played that video clip of your bio, if we may call it that, is to save us a little bit of time for you to say anything about yourself, because that's one thing personally I struggle when people tell us about yourself. Let me begin by this way, my brother. What is that one thing? What is that one thing that prompted you, that you were just like, you know what, enough is enough, I need to jump into this? Why did KBF start a political party? And of course, I presume you are a candidate for 2026, but let's talk about that one thing.
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, you and I know that I grew up in a political home.
Yes.
My late father was a member of the UPP, the United Progressive Party, which was led by the late Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe. It was during his last detention, I think in 1978, when I was doing Form 3, Kubutondo Secondary School. And I think we had gone to visit my late father as a family. And I engaged him. I said, how are you going to get out of here? Because it had been too many arrests, too many detentions under that preservation of public security, under the one-party participatory democracy under Kaunda. So I asked him, I said, Dad, how are you going to get home now? And he says, we've got lawyers. And that was the first time I was hearing about lawyers. And I said, what do lawyers do? And he explained and said, well, lawyers help people get out of prison. They help people when they're having trouble with the law, with politics. Again, I heard the word politics. And then I promised my father that I was going to be a lawyer immediately, and that I was going to get him out of jail, no matter what happened. Because at a very young age, I realized there was some kind of injustice going on here. Call it moral justice, call it legal justice, social justice. I felt that as a family, we were being victimized. My father was a businessman, as you remember, Nathan. We had restaurants, we had shops, we had vehicles. Suddenly we had to walk to school. We had no means to survive. My late mother, who was a nurse, we had to survive on one salary. And I thought, this is an injustice to me, because now suffering came in, and then the family began to realize we couldn't make ends meet as much as we used to before. But I realized that there was this animal called politics, which was causing an injustice. And I began to get interested. Then I went back in real life and I started remembering how my late father would carry us for meetings to Murundu, Kuriwa Tataba Chisata, and then they'll be having their UPP meetings. Wakapwepo would come. I think your father as well would join there, Nathan, Mr. Nkama, if you remember.
Yes.
And the other politicians. And I began to say, if this animal called politics causes injustice, then it must also cause justice. So I began to get interested. And because of that, I realized I had to do something, a burning desire within me for the love of this country.
Yes.
And to become a patriot, to at least ensure change. I said I was going to get into politics. So when the Berlin Wall fell and there was this wind of change, communism, socialism was falling apart in Europe, and the MMD was being built, I realized this is my chance. You can remember from 1978, I never saw my father until 1981, and I was at university. So from 3, from 4, from 5, up to university. Wow. I wrote my Form 3, Akaletu Alelemba Form 3 to go to senior. Then I wrote my Form 5 without my father. I got into campus without my father. And I thought, this is unfair. Where's my father? I needed a father. I was a growing teenager, and I thought, this is not right. But when he came out, we had discussions. And then he began to tell me, change is coming, and we needed to start pushing. So in 1990-91, I thought, this is a chance. Because I saw UNIP as the one which was inflicting pain and misery. So I joined in the background the legal department or the legal section of MMD. And we started growing from there. We transcended from MMD and joined Vasata when he formed PF, when there was that political engineering by the late FTJ, and he said that Vasata was not going to take over leadership. And then we followed Vasata into PF, and that's when really I began full-time.
Okay.
But it was about getting moral justice, social justice, and to some extent legal justice, because we didn't want to fight people who were going to, cause us pain, but we wanted a good Zambia, a country that was going to be built on equality. And that's the aim, really. And I saw the former president, with due respect, late FTJ, trying to vie for a third term. I said no. We joined the Jubilee Coalition, the Oasis Forum, and we just had to fight that. And then transcended into PF.
Okay, excellent. In the bio introduction video, it says you have helped 3 presidents. You only mentioned 2.
If you add the current president, yes.
But why haven't you mentioned him in the video?
Well, maybe they've cut it. You guys with technology cut 3 things. Well, I can't do much about it.
Okay.
We joined the alliance for the UPND after a lot of pushing from various people, the church, NGOs, traditional leaders, some of our mutual friends. As you know, I entered university the same day as Aga Ndeichilema did, the president.
Okay, so you were,
and we graduated on the same.
You were in the same intake, right?
Yes, same intake, and we graduated.
So you know each other for a while.
Very, very long time. We were the 17th graduation ceremony students at the University of Zambia.
Okay, so since we're talking about HH, the alliance here, the insinuation, and this is meant for you to engage with the diaspora community. People need to hear KBF's message, where he stands on things. So let's clear this one thing. People are probably watching or listening to you for the first time. The insinuation that you got out of the UPND alliance because you didn't get what you wanted.
Ah, well, a very good question again. Let me make a few things clear. I have never been a card-carrying member of the UPND.
Okay.
In the runner-up to the elections of 2021, I was approached by various parties. This is after the Patriotic Front of my older brother, Edgar Chagwalungu. They had expelled me, if you remember.
Yes, yes. And
Yes.
it
So
dragged.
I thought, okay, I'm not going to litigate this because I know what political litigation does. It's a waste of time, waste of resources. If people don't want you, they don't appreciate you, let them go. I walked away. I never went to court. I didn't want to fight. I just let it go. So in the runner-up to the 2021 elections, I was requested by a lot of people, like I said, to assist Hakainde Hichilema.
Okay.
He had been failing in his elections for many times. And by that time, I was more like what you can call a freelance politician.
Okay.
So I thought I was in the offing of forming Zambia Must Prosper and transforming it into a political party. But people came and said, help this man. We are tired of PF. We're tired of the caderism. We're tired of the hooliganism, the endless bad governance and the breach of the rule of law. So I thought, okay, let's help this guy. We agreed with Hakainde Hichilema and the people that were asking me to help on 4 pillars.
Okay.
Please mark these 4 pillars. Number 1, we agreed that we're going to bring back the unity of the country because we had agreed in our discussions that the country at that time was polarized due to political differences, tribal differences. Number 2, we agreed that we're going to fight to bring back the rule of law. Thirdly, good governance had gone through the window. And fourthly, we agreed that we're going to run a meritorious government. On these 4 pillars, we stood and agreed, and I said, I will help you. Not that I was going to join the UPND, that I refused from the inception. I discovered, however, that instead of uniting the country, again, we saw the re-emergence of tribalism, nepotism, defeating the meritorious claim that we had put out to the Zambian people, the promises we had put up to the Zambian people. Good governance was thrown out the window because then we began to see a lot of arrests of opposition political leaders, even without evidence, even where there was no real prosecutable case. Again, the injustice coming from my history. I started seeing those ugly things rearing their heads, and I said, this is not correct. Thirdly, I started also seeing that the rule of law began to deteriorate. I don't know whether my good friend did not or does not understand the concept of the rule of law, but it seems that in his head, he feels and thinks that the rule of law is about himself. And I thought, this is not correct. But the other reason, other than the breach of the 4 pillars that we had agreed on, Nathan, is the fact that we had made promises to the Zambians. Hakainde Hichilema had gone on a very big campaign and made promises over the economy, over the agricultural sector of this country, job creation, the health sector, infrastructure, a lot of things. So I thought this is the first time that Zambia is having an economist in government. And I believed with the whole of my heart that yes, we're going to have a guy who runs things and is going to have the political will, therefore he's going to change things.
Yes.
Boy, was I wrong. The promises started going through the window, fertilizer prices going up, subsidies removed on electricity, subsidies removed on fuel. Everything was just everything going bad to worse. And then this affinity of having some sort of belief that we could go against what our forefathers had put up as our foreign policy. If you remember during the Kaunda era, we had stood on partisanship.
Mhm.
We had a non-aligned kind of foreign policy. So
Yes.
we were a non-aligned nation. Then we started tilting so much to the West that he thought in his own head that all the answers would come from the West, the IMF, the World Bank, and all his friends in business. Obviously, that didn't go as planned. And today, the dollar rate is skyrocketing. Our petrol prices are all over. Our agriculture policy is gone. Fertilizer is gone. I mean, these are things he promised. So the failure to keep the promises, I began to see there is no vision in my friend. There is no real policy direction. And lastly, as a character, as an individual, the heart. Where we come from, Nathan, in our little town of Muflira, when you make a promise, we were taught, keep your word.
Yes.
And this man, my good friend, doesn't care whether he breaks the promise, whether it injures people, whether it hurts the economy, so long as his friends and himself are enriching themselves. The other thing is he gave the impression he was a very rich man. I am realizing that he's actually making money now. It was
Really?
just a perception that he gave. No, Hakainde Hichilema was not as rich as he told the Zambians. No. This is one reason why he refused to declare his assets. Because we would have seen through the books that he was lying to us. And that's the catchphrase. I want the Zambians in the diaspora, the Zambians in our country, to know one thing. We have a president in State House today who is a liar. And I'm sorry to call him that, but that's the truth. That's the problem. So I walked out of the alliance because I saw that and I thought, I can't stay here. This is not who I am. If my job was to help this man get into power, I have done my job and I'm done. So I walked out. Not that I asked for a job. I've never asked for a job. If I was going to ask for a job, I would have probably demanded a job from Vasata or maybe my big brother ECL, because those are the ones I worked with diligently. Hakainde, I just went to help.
Okay. Okay. So, I'm glad you mentioned something that, listening to your press briefs over a period of time, including the one you had on a few days ago, a week ago, I believe, yesterday.
Right. Friday.
Friday, the 12th of December.
Yes.
This thing KBF keeps coming up. He's a liar, he's a liar, he's a liar. And a lot of, and I keep saying to myself, don't every politician lies. They says one thing and do another thing. So let's zero into this thing. He's a liar. I mean, forget the script. Let's talk about things as you've done this many times. You know how conversations go. Whatever comes up, we address it rather than us sticking to the script. What things has he lied about?
Well, number one, Hakainde Hichilema promised the Zambians that he was going to reduce the price of fertilizer. Okay, because he had some mathematics, some graphs that he was working with. And he promised saying that using his economic knowledge as an economist and his business acumen, plus his friends and his, networks, he had already secured deals that was going to ensure that our fertilizer prices come down. He lifted bags of fertilizer. He lifted bags of cooking oil. He lifted bags of salt, and he was complaining that the food basket was rising. And he promised the price of food substance, the bread basket in the home, was going to come down. He lied on that. Everything since he took over government has gone up. That's number one. Petrol. Again, he had a fuel price reduction formula. And he said he was going to use his networks. He told us that he had friends in the US, in the Arab world, in Europe, and they were going to assist him reduce the price of fuel. That hasn't happened, Nathan. Today, as we speak, our fuel prices are almost 31 kwacha per liter. He found it at 15 or 17 kwacha. It's doubled. in this short 2 years that he has been in government. Third, the price of electricity. He said that he had a formula again to reduce the price of electricity. Now, you and I know that when you touch fertilizer, which is agriculture, food, when you touch electricity, when you touch fuel, that's what drives the engine of the country.
Yeah, of course.
So the economy has been affected by these factors, and the cost of doing business has shot up, going up, where Zambians now cannot even reach their pockets and find any way to even spare. It's those lies, Nathan. Millimil, he found it at 130 kwacha. We are buying millimil today close to 400 kwacha, 25 kg bag. And you know, ubunga, millimil, is our staple food here in Zambia.
Of course.
Again, these are things he said on podiums. There are so many, you can just Google. There are so many platforms on which Hakainde Hichilema went on and said to the Zambians, he's got a formula, he's going to solve this, he's going to solve this, and he promised. And for me, I thought, we can't keep lying like this, not in broad daylight. And since I have followed him carefully, there seems to be no policy direction, no vision, and indeed no answer. He said that he was going to go to the IMF, he was going to negotiate and get Zambia's debt restructured and everything else. Within 6 months, yes, discussions were held. We had our our finance minister, Honorable Musokotwane, go to back and forth to New York and Washington and wherever he went. And they came back and announced that they had secured a $1.3 billion deal with the IMF. We have not seen that money, Nathan. Nothing has come which we can talk of being substantial. It's been drips and drabs. There we go. Again, the economy was dependent only on one solution. The debt restructuring was another thing. He promised the Zambians. No, I'm an economist. I've got friends. I've got influence. You remember there's a particular video Zambians will remember. Supposing we are sworn in on the 16th of August at 10 hours, by 14 hours, the dollar will drop. He overrated his credibility. And Zambians believed. You see, when you're making campaign promises, we should learn to be realistic, even as politicians. Now, Zambians held on to those promises, and those promises have come and gone. Today, as we speak, my brother, I can tell you that the man on the street does not believe a word our president says. And for me, it is disappointing because I thought, one, he's an economist. Two, he's my friend. And in places where the PF did not allow him to go and campaign, I went and campaigned for him. I did. Today, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to say that I was campaigning for a liar. So that's why I call him a liar.
Strong words, KBF. Strong words.
But it's true. I mean, you know, when you're calling things for what they are, you don't even have to lie. You don't have to think twice. The truth, you don't have to manufacture. It's the truth. Okay.
I want you to respond to this. Campaign promises are made. Every politician does that. Okay. Yes. HH has never had any government experience or worked in any political position, so to speak. Right. So he gets into office and he discovers that things don't work the way he thought they work. Okay, you have to deal with the World Bank, you have to deal with the Chinese, you have to deal with the European Union. So two things, I want you to respond to this. Sure. On this thing of him being a liar. He gets in there, he discovers things don't work like that. Remember, Trump faced the same situation, right? Trump gets in, he discovers that it's actually the Senate and Congress who run the show around here. So HH gets in and he discovers that it's not that simple. It doesn't work that way, the way I thought. Right. What's your response to that?
Well, unfortunately for HH, he told us that the people in those institutions are his friends. You see the difference
Okay,
there.
I see what you mean. Yeah, okay.
The problem is he
World
made
Bank,
the
IMF,
Zambians
and all
believe.
those places.
Correct. He said he knew those people. He said he's got numbers for the people in the IMF. He's got numbers for the people in World Bank. And these are people he interacts with face to face, one-on-one, and he knows them. And that they had made him promises before he got into power that they were going to solve these problems for Zambia. So that's where the lying comes in, because he made the Zambians. It's like this. If someone says, do you know Nathan in Kama? I mean, I know you, Nathan. I know where you grew up. I can name your family. I can tell you, no, Nathan's older brother is Jeff, Betioko, Rachel, Bwalya, and you know what? It's a family.
Yes.
I can name your family. I know where you lived. I can point at it. And if you say to a Zambian, an ordinary Zambian, I know the people I'm dealing with. Zambians are gullible. Yeah. They believed. And even me, as a friend, I thought, maybe he's got a solution. Unfortunately, it turned out he doesn't know anybody. And if he knows anybody, it's not at the level where they can trust him. So that's where the lying comes in.
Okay.
He overrated himself, oversold himself, and made Zambians believe he is what he's not. HH is just a simple guy from Bwengwa who got into government by fluke. That's what I think.
Okay.
He got into government by lying. You remember the famous phrase that he kept saying to the Zambians? Bali will fix it.
Yes.
That's what he said. We believed, and Zambians held on to that. He said it. It became his sing-song phrase. Bali will fix it, Bali will fix it. You could not speak to the UPND about anything other than the fact that and they kept that in the face of everybody. So they believed.
How is that different? How is that different
mine.
From more money in your pockets?
No, but if Basata had lived longer, Nathan, we would have seen a different Zambia. That I can tell you, because I was part of the planning. I was part of the groups that were sitting in the background, listening to the philosophies and listening to the vision that Basata had. And in the few years that PF was in power, at least in terms of infrastructure, they were able to deliver a maximum of what they promised. To this date, let me say this, the UPND has not built one major hospital they can talk about. To this date,
they've only been in power for 2 years, KBF.
Huh?
They've only been in power for 2 years.
Basata was in power for 2 years, then he died, and we saw what he did. Roads were there. I can point at roads that he did. Airports that he did. You don't need to be in power for too long as a political leader if you have a vision and you have the political will to do what you want. The problem with my friend is he's gone into government with no vision, no direction.
Okay.
And he kept telling the PF they have no vision, poor leadership. What are we seeing from him? Worse.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
All right. We've already alluded to your press conference that you held on January 12th, I believe a week from yesterday.
Right.
And you address the issue of cholera isn't Zambia's. You talked about cholera, but in my view, cholera isn't only Zambia's health problem. I want us to discuss this issue of the health sector because you've talked about infrastructure. Let me quote something from your speech on the press conference. Quote, the UPND government found a cholera prevention plan in place.
Right.
But because that prevention plan was instituted by PF, they refused to use it. Hence this disaster, end of quote.
Right.
Why do we, don't you think the health problems of Zambia, a lot of people have got to answer for this? KBF.
I do. I agree. But governments, Nathan, about continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And
we don't seem to be very good at that in Zambia. We don't seem to be very good.
And that's my problem. That's where I was coming from. That's my problem. If you understand, there are certain things about running a country which you do not, one, politicize, two, you do not weaponize. Health is one such factor.
Mm-hmm.
I am holding here, I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
This is the report I was referring to. A full report done by the PF. This is the Zambia multi-sectoral cholera elimination plan of 2019 to 2025. This one.
Yeah. Thanks to your team, they sent me that copy.
Now, in this team, in this plan, the PF agreed after studies that they were going to eradicate and prevent cholera by 2025. As a result of the loss of power in 2021, this was done in 2019.
Yes.
2023, Hakainde Hichilema flew to Switzerland to go and receive a very prestigious award as a control champion for cholera based on this report. Now, you get the goodies of the report, but you don't want to implement it. That's the problem I have with this guy. He wants to take credit and the niceties of the report, but he doesn't want to fix the things. Now, I'll mention a few things, Nathan, and I don't want to be misunderstood. I want us to see this plan for what it is. I'll read a few things so that you can see that the study was done properly.
Yeah. Please also mention the because it does show the organizations that were involved in that process, right?
Very good. Very good. Very good. And I totally agree with you. In this multi-sectoral cholera elimination plan, the government was involved through a department called the Zambia National Public Health Institute, the Cholera Center, UNICEF was involved, and the World Health Organization, and other government and non-governmental agencies that helped to fund this study. And they studied that. The UPND picked this up, and in their National Health Strategic Plan of 2022 to 2026, signed off by the minister, the current Minister of Health, Sylvia Masebo, and addressed by His Excellency, Hakainde Hichilema, in the 8th National Development Plan at page 51 and page 52, in line with Vision 2030 for Zambia. They said they wanted to make Zambia a prosperous middle-income country with the aims of 1, good health and well-being for all, leaving no one behind, and health for all policies. In other words, any government policy that was going to come up had to have the health sector embedded in there. These are the reports. This is not me. This is the 8th National Development Plan. You can see the president there.
Yes.
Yes. This is their 8th National Development Plan. I have the 7th National Development Plan from the PF here. This is the UPND plan. So I've read these two, and I understand what the nation is supposed to be, or where the nation is supposed to be. The problem we have is going through these studies, they are refusing to implement what they have said in these studies. What are the facts in these studies? I'll read a few things. One, from this study, it is clear that cholera is a global problem. It's understood that annually we have about 2.9 million cases of cholera reported. Annually, we have about 95,000 deaths reported. About
globally.
37%.
That's global.
Global. 37% of all cholera cases are reported in Africa. In Zambia specifically, they identified 10 hotspots, which they know these are prone to cholera. So this study makes it clear where cholera occurs. It is also clear from this study that about 3.5 million people live in those hotspots for cholera. That's a very huge number of people to be put at risk. The reasons why cholera is there is because there's no adequate clean water, there's poor sanitation, and among other things.
Okay, maybe a phone call came through the
6.4 million. Did I lose it? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Technology.
Yeah.
6.4 million people in these regions always suffer because of those hotspots, and about 11 million in those regions, again, the hotspots, will always be prone and always be faced with a cholera outrage or cholera outbreak at any time. This study was there. It is in the DMMU, a section of government which is run by the vice president of this country. This document was signed off by Mama Inonge Wina, the former vice president.
Yes.
Mama Mutalina Lumango, our current vice president, has this document. The lies with the UPND is that she makes a Dr. Pollen appear with her on TV, has a photo op, receiving a document, and she says, now I've got the cholera report. No, that's the problem I have. The cholera report has been with you since 2019. You found it.
In the
it
office.
was already there. It was done. So why didn't you just pick it up and say, this is what we're going to do? Now, I'll tell you that some of the protocols established in this study is that the moment you have even one case of cholera reported, immediately you must cordon off that area, start sanitization, start chlorinating the water, and indeed clear the garbage, the filth, the drainages, the pit latrines, etc. They didn't do that. Since October last year, when the first cases of this current outbreak of cholera, they have never ever declared a disaster. I understand why they don't want to declare a disaster, and I'll tell you why. The reason is the moment a country declares a disaster, its ratings internationally, in terms of the economic fiscal policy, goes down, because everybody now starts thinking this is a problem area, investment won't go there, and nobody wants to come and deal with you because they think our citizens may get sick. So that I understand. But why didn't they follow the protocols? These protocols were established. The World Health Organization was supervising this document. That's why I have a problem with the UPND. They don't want this continuity of looking after our people. Health, my dear brother Nathan, dear viewers, dear listeners, you cannot play with.
No.
Because a healthy nation is what you need for production in the economy, in the agriculture sector, in the educational sector, in the mining sector, in the informal sector. Any sector is affected by health. If you are sick, my brother, you can do nothing. You can't, sometimes you can't eat, you can't work, you can't, basically your whole life is at standstill until you get well. So how are you going to be a productive nation when cholera is ravaging? And some of these hotspots, unfortunately, are within our city, Lusaka.
Yes.
And that's the problem I have with the UPND.
So
they don't want to admit their mistakes.
Yeah. So let's zero down to the 3.5 million hotspots that were identified.
No, 10 hotspots where there's about 3.5 million people.
10, okay. Yeah. 10 hotspots, 3.5 million. What's the permanent? How? But why? Why not eradicate or do what needs to be done?
Good question. I have another document here, Nathan, which you may want to look at. This is the development plan for the city of Lusaka a study done by JICA, a Japanese agency.
Japanese, yes.
Yes, and they planned out how they wanted to deal with the cholera situation in Zambia, how they were going to dismantle some of our compounds, how they were going to upgrade some of these compounds, how they were going to do the drainages in these compounds, how they were going to do the sanitation in these compounds, how they were going to drive piped water in these compounds to completely eradicate cholera in our city, which is the main concentration center. And this study was done by JICA for free. There are diagrams in here showing the maps of Lusaka and where they wanted to make, move some of our people, like Chongwe, like Kafue, like Kembe, some highlands, and build areas where people would live, and then live very few people in places like Kanyama, Chibolia, which is the concentration of where cholera is. This, again, this document is with DMMU, right there in the Vice President's office. It is with the Ministry of Health. UPND, again, has ignored this document. This is the problem I have with UPND. They want to come into government and pretend like they're starting anew, like this is the first government in the Republic of Zambia. No. And what's worse is the current Minister of Health, my sister, Honorable Sylvia Masebo, this is not the first time she's holding the portfolio of Minister of Health. She's been there before.
Interesting.
Be it in different governments, but she's been there before. So she can't pretend like this is new. Sylvia and I were at university together. You understand? She's not a dunderhead. No. She can read, she can write, she can understand. So why is it that she's failing to comprehend the problems we have at hand? And then just go to the president and say, these things have been studied. We need to act on them to save our people. We cannot be having a barest minimum number of cases of cholera. Every time there's an outbreak, it's 10,000 plus. The number of deaths is over thousands. I mean, how do we live? Okay. This repetition to me means you don't have a plan as a government. And what's worse, and I'm sorry to say this, the UPND, Nathan, were in opposition for over 20 years. Are you honestly telling me they didn't see these problems? They didn't know about these problems? You see, when you're in opposition for such a long time, what is expected is that even as you're outside government, you're studying what your friends are doing.
Yes.
You're reading the hotspots, you're understanding the problems, so that when you go into government, you hit the ground running. And they failed to do that. So how can we forgive them? The studies are there. I've got all the documents here.
Yeah, I see them.
Are there. Yes. So why are they lying that they're doing the studies now? These studies were done a long time ago.
We have to talk about education and employment. Nelly says this cholera issue is an implementation problem.
Correct.
It is clear that the people in power know what the problem, where it is, and how to fix it. So let's wind up the health sector discussion by saying ZM, Zambia Must Prosper, gets into government 2026. How do you deal with this?
Well, let me make this general statement first. The drug shortages, the shortage of equipment, and the shortage of personnel in the health sector is due to poor leadership. That's my assessment. Because if you fail to understand the needs of the health sector, you're killing your people. If you fail to adjust and prioritize health, you're killing your people. If you fail to give the necessary budgetary allocation to health, you're killing your people. And this is what the UPND has failed to do. They have maintained the budget allocation for the Ministry of Health to a minimum barest of 10% of the budget. Who does that? When the population is growing, Nathan, how do you do that? You can't. As the population grows, you adjust your budget to suit.
Yes.
They are not doing that. Now, when you are sick, my brother, like I said, you can't work. You can't play. You can't sing. You can't eat well. You can do nothing. So everything about you gets affected. If you're a driver, you can't drive. If you're a farmer, you can't farm. If you're a lawyer like me, you can't go to court. What this cholera outbreak has done is that it has exposed the deficiency in leadership in the UPND, the lack of understanding how to plan and how to execute. Zambia must prosper, and government has got a plan already. We shall prioritize the health sector. We shall hit the ground running, and we know that we are going to prioritize in all our developmental agendas the family first. In the family, we have picked one person, the mother. We shall prioritize the needs of the mother, because it is the mother that looks after herself when she's pregnant, during antenatal, post-antenatal, looking after the child when the child is born, taking the child to immunization and all these things up to under 5 until the child at least is ready to leave home. We know that. We also want to look at the child mortality rates, the mother's health as a person, and all other diseases surrounding a mother, because a healthy mother means a healthy family. So Zambia Must Prosper is prioritizing the family, but in the family, we're prioritizing the mother.
The mother, okay.
The mother. That will be the central theme of our development. Every developmental agenda will revolve around the mother, the woman. UPND has not done that. They are talking generally. They think everybody has the same needs. No, 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 no. A woman's needs are special. We have recognized that. You and I know, Nathan, that I've grown up in a home where my mother was a nurse.
Yes.
So I understand these things. And my mother grew to be a matron in the hospital where she was in charge of the maternity. So I knew that maternity was a special wing. It needed its own problems to be dealt with. But worse still now, not even worse, but maybe luckily for me, you come and marry a doctor. So for me, I've transcended from living in a home where mother is a nurse.
Is a nurse to marrying a doctor.
I live with medical issues every day. So when there's an issue about medics, I understand. I go to read because I know medics don't lie. Science doesn't cheat. Numbers don't cheat. Cholera in America is cholera in Zambia. Cholera in England is cholera in Zambia. 2 in Russia is 2 in Zambia. Science doesn't lie. And those facts must be clear. UPND has failed to do that. And as Zambia Must Prosper, we also know that as we sit here, we want to look at how our demography is spread in the country. Okay. Because when you prioritize health, you must know where you're going to put the major hospitals in relation to your people, where you're going to put the clinics in relation to your people. When I was in PF, for example, we came up with a program of putting up 650 health posts with Basata. I think you remember that aspect. And we managed to put up many of these infrastructure things. The UPND hasn't done anything. They haven't added to that number, but the population is growing. So ours is to pick up where the good policies of the PF are and push, because we have seen no policies from the UPND, unfortunately. And that's the problem we have.
Okay. Let's take a break here and we shall transition. We shall wind up with health. There's one more question I want to ask you. Why do we have perpetual no drugs in the health sector? 60 years of independence, KBF, 60 years, we still have a drugs problem. Let's take a break and we'll be coming back.
I'm right here. I'm right here.
That's the Kuomboka Gala coming up on April 13th. Get ready to participate and to get involved. And my guest this morning, this evening, this afternoon is for you, wherever you're watching from, is Mr. Kelvin Fube Bwalya, is the president of Zambia Must Prosper Party. We are discussing policy here, and those of you have heard what and where the party stands on a lot of issues. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in as we get ready for him to rejoin the conversation here. Yeah, then Daniel, thank you for joining us, watching. Matilda, good morning. Everybody's watching. Good morning and happy Sabbath from Miss Joyce, and good morning, watching from Texas. My sister Brenda, Dr. Kasonso, watching from the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I'm watching my president, Paul Kapusha Mansal Luapula. Thank you, Avena Luapula, for joining us. I love my people from Luapula, and a whole bunch of people here watching. We do thank you for joining us as we continue our conversation with Zambia Must Prosper President. KBF, why do we have perpetual shortages of drugs in the stores, in the health sector?
One simple answer, my brother Nathan: the lack of understanding the budgetary allocation that is required in the health sector. That's the major premise we must understand. When you know that health is a necessity, you need your medicines, you need your equipment, you need your personnel, you prioritize health, you increase the budget. If you don't, you're going to have these perpetual shortages of drugs. I know I shouldn't be mentioning people and friends and relatives here, but I know for a fact that we've had unnecessary deaths of people from cancer, diabetes, and other non-communicable diseases simply because there are no drugs. There's no equipment. Some people who suffer from kidney failure, the dialysis machines just don't work, or they are prioritized and given to politicians when other people are suffering. Now, in a country like ours, why should we have just 2-3 dialysis machines? Does that make sense to you? Maybe one on
the people from
Kasama. How does that work?
Have to come to Lusaka to get that treatment. Why?
Exactly. And you know the distances we have to cover. So this is just the lack of understanding by the leadership and the lack of prioritizing health, because this is not a new factor. But let a politician get sick, my brother, and you will see them quickly get evacuated to go and get treatment outside. It's like the life of a politician.
Who has been evacuated?
I'll not
I
comment,
know you didn't want to go there. I'm going to say
it's you making the observation. But these things have been seen even during the MMD days.
Exactly.
Even it's the PF days.
Yes. Let me go to something that you and I, our generation growing up, our parents were very passionate about this. How many times did our parents sing to us about paying attention to education? I need to read this. I need to read this question. I need to stick to the script here because we are getting into a serious. Okay. The situation concerning education sector, KBF, is similar to health.
Right.
Okay. No new schools have been built to correspond with the population growth. We are able to find money to build roads, to build airports, to hold elections and by-elections.
True.
But we have never built schools. Free, the UPND comes into government and they make free education. KBF, today, you see, you know what I did about this situation? I'll tell you. Sure. I called somebody in Mufulira and I said, how many secondary schools are in Mufulira today? Let's not talk about let's not talk about the trust school. That's private.
Right.
Let's not talk about the new school that is by Mufulira Teachers Training College. I forget the name.
Ego.
My brother, 60 years of independence. Shouldn't we have Kamuchanga Secondary School today?
True.
Shouldn't we have Minambe Secondary School today?
I agree.
Shouldn't we have Kansuswa Secondary? The people from Kansuswa still have to go to Kantanshi, Butondo, and Mufulira.
True.
60 years of independence. I understand the Kwalibana and Deke number. Therefore, going to Ndora Road.
Yes.
Shouldn't we have in Deke Secondary School today, KBF?
And Kankoyo.
Yeah.
And Murundu.
Shouldn't we have a secondary school there?
We can.
So where are our okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. You can tell I'm becoming you see the reason I'm becoming stirred up here is like I said. I know what mom and dad said to you about education. I know what mom and dad said to me about education. But our political leaders, you don't seem to be showing that this is a priority.
I hear you.
So free education, but there are 90 students. When you and I went to Mufulira Primary School, we were 35 in class.
28.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It's technology.
Yeah. I remember maximum 35.
Yes.
So I don't think this is a priority. It's not.
Thank you for the question, my brother. Let me say this so that maybe Zambians understand where Zambia Must Prosper is coming from. There are two fundamental misconceptions most Zambian politicians make and continue to make about education. Number one, that the millions of our youths and young people who are unemployed are a burden and not an asset. Zambia Must Prosper takes the view that those millions are an asset. Number two, that the educational system is a cost rather than an investment. I want to switch that. Zambia Must Prosper takes the view that education is an investment. And I'm very glad that you've gone through those little hotspots in our little town called Mufulira, just as an example, to show that the population has grown, but we're not growing the infrastructure. That is the major problem, Nathan. And I want to promise the Zambians here that for Zambia Must Prosper, we believe and declare that every child or every youth at school or at work is an ideology we believe in so much that we want education to be a part of our lives as Zambians. It's not a privilege to get educated. No, it must be a right. And therefore the children must be given the necessary infrastructure. But that infrastructure must correspond with the demography. I keep going back to this because, you know, every politician worth his salt must understand that when you're talking about politics in a vacuum, without talking about numbers, the growth of the population, you're not going to drive any policy agenda which people are going to understand when you yourself don't understand what you're doing. It is true that the number of schools and school places are inadequate for our children. I agree. But what have we done? The UPND is boasting that they have increased the CDF funding. And they're using that as a sing-song to say that they're using CDF to grow the number of schools. Nathan, the number of schools or classroom blocks that they're building are 1 by 3 blocks. In other words, a block with 3 classrooms. And they think that's education. The other thing which is coming up, especially in Lusaka and other cities, is that every headmaster, every deputy headmaster, senior teacher who is retired suddenly thinks and feels, I should turn my home into a school. We can't have that kind of education, Nathan.
We need
you
rules.
And I know that as children, we looked forward to break time because we had all these fields where we needed to go and run and play and enjoy ourselves. And you do recall that every break time, we had to go and get some buns and those little triangle kind of milks, long life, or dairy chalk and things. Because Kaunda as in the First Republic, being a teacher himself, understood that the mind of a child needs to be fed, not only with educational material, but the child had to be healthy and also fed in order for him to concentrate in class. Education in Zambia Must Prosper is also going to be one of our priority areas, because we know that when we educate a nation, we have tomorrow good doctors, good teachers, good lawyers, good engineers, good technicians, and all the other things that come out of education. But every youth at school or at work in Zambia Must Prosper is one of our very fundamental philosophical, ideological issues. We want the youths to listen and listen good. And my brother, please allow me to explain here.
Okay.
That phrase, every youth at school or at school, is loaded. Those who are intellectually gifted, we want them to excel as much as they can. Let them go and do their calculus, mathematical, whatever genius they become, and they become pilots, doctors. We shall appreciate you. Those are the ones academically gifted, those at school. But or at work, this is where Zambia Must Prosper differs with the other political parties, because we realize that the majority of our children may not have the ability academically, or they may not have the finances to finish their education. So we want to change the educational system, the syllabus system in Zambia, and begin to look at what talents can we improve, what talents can we grow from our children. Here's an example. My football team initially is Mufulira Wanderers, Mighty Mufulira Wanderers. Number 2 is Zambia. As a club at national or international level, it's Manchester United. At international level, I support Brazil. And you know where I'm going. This is how Dennis Liwewe would put it. When we are attacking Bwana, we want to attack education from that perspective. Here's the thought. At Manchester United in the academy, when Sir Alex Ferguson went into that academy, he found Ryan Giggs, the Neville brothers, Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt. That became the core of what Manchester United became of great. These boys were sent there by their parents. Wayne Rooney has never been to a university. Ryan Giggs has never been to a university. The Neville brothers have never been to a university. Paul Scholes has never been to a university. They brought in Ronaldo from Portugal to come and reinforce the attacking system at Man U. My brother, has Ronaldo ever been to a university? No. Lionel Messi, if he hadn't gone to Barcelona, who would Lionel Messi be in Argentina today? Nobody. But I'm trying to say, with the gift and talent that God has given these boys, they have been able to excel. We watch them every day. These are boys who are at their peak, were perhaps able to get 300,000, 400,000 pounds per week for kicking a ball. Now, why can't we, as a government coming into office, begin to produce such players by giving them the infrastructure where we know that these children may not be academically gifted, but they've got another gift which we can develop, such as football. Let me talk about music. You and I grew up on the songs of the Jacksons, okay? Yeah, I mean the Jackson 5. Michael Jackson became a superstar when he produced Off the Wall and left his family. But as the Jackson 5, tell me, my brother, which amongst the Jackson children, Catherine Jackson and Joseph Jackson, the two parents, which amongst the Jackson children ever went to university? None of them.
None of them.
They have been living off music. That's a talent. Why? Where are the musical classes gone in our educational system? Where are the drama clubs? Because if you talk of Hollywood, some of these guys start acting from school. The little things we used to do at school, Nathan, acting. Yeah. Whether you're at secondary school or some other place, you knew that you had a talent somewhere. We created theater clubs. And the mines were supporting that as a social corporate responsibility at the time we grew up. There was Zanase, I mean, where was that club which the late Greg Lungu belonged to in Kitwe? We had Mavuto Theatre in Mufulira, if you remember.
Yeah.
And then we had also the Chingola club, we had the Luansha clubs, we had the Ndola clubs. We would compete, and we had Zanis, I forget now. We would meet at provincial level and compete in acting. Now, if the infrastructure was right, where would our talents and our culture be on television today? Today, we've got a soap opera called Impari, basically, on Zambian TV. People watch, and it's gone all over. South Africans are watching it. Nigerians have bought into it. Are you honestly telling me we can't develop the talents of our youths who are not able to get an academic education? We can. Half of the people in Hollywood today don't have university or college education, but they've got a talent.
So
it's a question of spotting that skill, that talent. Forget the ones with the heads and the ones that can think. There are boys today who can do welding. They can do bricklaying. They can do construction, building. They can do carpentry. Why can't we have those skills back in the school system? That's where the syllabus has to change. Because they're good people, good boys, who are good with their hands. They may not be good here. If you give me wood and a mass spanner and other things, I may not even fix a tire.
Yeah.
But there are boys who are good at mechanics. Teach that. Because these are skills the boys will live with forever. So Zambia must prosper is saying to the Zambians, we have recognized in this one phrase, every youth at school or at work. At work means any work that you can do that can give you a livelihood. We want to improve that. And that's where we want to go with education.
So the UPND government has again, I hope I'm using the right terminology here, has again revised or changed the syllabus system or the approach. What are your thoughts on that? We are coming from a basic school system. I think it was done by the MMD. Now we are going to this other new system. We are changing the syllabus, but the classrooms are congested, KBF. So
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
I'm getting confused here. Please,
this is where I don't understand. I don't understand my friend, the president, I mean. Hakainde Ichlem and myself, including yourself, Nathan, and others in our generation, we grew up under the First Republic. Kaunda.
Yes.
Yes, and we knew that education had to be had because we were told by our parents, this will get you out of poverty. Education is an equalizer. The problem with Hakainde Ichlem is he comes up with a policy before he thinks it through. There is nothing wrong with free education, but Zambia Must Prosper would have done it differently.
Okay.
First of all, we would have attacked the infrastructure. We would have grown the infrastructure, the base. We would have employed teachers. We would have made sure that we have the infrastructure and the teaching personnel before we introduce that free education. Because today, you're right, and you have put the numbers at 90. That's wrong, my brother. In fact, today the numbers are at 100, 120. The teachers are overworked.
In a classroom.
In one class.
How
Some
does
of
the teacher deal with that?
On the floor. Some of the pupils don't even have writing pads or writing books. They don't know how to even write. But we're forcing them to get into classrooms just because this is what the UPND wants to do. Now, whenever a government begins to go by populist policies just to get popular, they've lost it. They've lost it. And this is where this thing will fail because it's going nowhere. The UPND, I keep repeating, lacks visionary planning. The UPND has failed to appreciate our demographic growth in terms of population. The UPND lacks knowledge about modern learning skills. And that's where their education has gone wrong. So whatever policies they have towards that, it will not work. Now, you tell me, Nathan, at university when I was an undergraduate, when we were in what we term as an auditorium, Maximum was 250, 300. Today, the kids are going there and there are 1,000 kids. Which lecturer will shout to 1,000 kids and teach? Half of them are on their phones playing. The other half, they don't care. It's just a question of attendance. Now, for me, it's a worrisome factor because what kind of doctors are we producing? What kind of lawyers are we producing? What kind of engineers are we? I'm talking quality now, Nathan.
Yes,
Follow
yes.
me. Not
It's
quantity.
important.
Quality. In other words, if this guy or this girl is going to put a needle in my body, does he or she understand what she's putting in me? Because this can kill me. And that's the problem I have. So education cannot be taken lightly.
No,
it's a serious matter, just like health. These are serious issues. And unfortunately, the UPND has failed to think these matters through. That's where the difference and departure is with Zambia Must Prosper.
Let's take some. Education is the most weapon for changing the world. That being said, government will need to look at investing in meaningful education infrastructure and trade schools. Plan 2, information education is not for everyone. It's true. It's high time we became pragmatic. That's my sister. Friday says very good policy on education. And my sister Crystal says yes. Let's take a question here. But Jordan says UPND has introduced CDF skills. What's your say? I didn't know there's CDF skills. What is CDF skills?
My brother Nathan, don't look at those questions anymore. Those are UPND people trying to distract us. There is no CDF skills. CDF is a fund.
Okay.
It's a constitutional development fund. It's not a skill.
Jordan, what's CDF skill? Please help us understand. KBF, a lot to talk about. I can't even believe our time is gone, which you allocated to me.
I'm still here if you want me.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just want to be, what do you call it? I need to respect your time and what we agreed upon. Right. I know you're a busy man, and how do you plan to deal with the unemployment problem? This is the Goliath of Zambia, KBF. This is the Goliath of Zambia. How do you plan to deal with the unemployment?
Well, thank you for the question.
But Charles Daka, that's exactly why I've raised this issue. Okay, what are you promising on youths? I think the issue is employment here.
Correct.
How do you plan to deal with the unemployment? And I call it the Goliath of Zambia.
I agree with you. Thank you for the question, Nathan. In Zambia Must Prosper, we believe, again, one of our fundamental ideological philosophies, that when Zambians prosper, Zambia prospers. If you heard me where I started off, I said Zambia Must Prosper is going to center its developmental agenda on the family.
Yes.
And in the family, we've picked the woman, the mother. And all health sectors, all developmental agendas are going to revolve around this one person and then permeate to the rest. So this is how we deal with unemployment. Number one, we have identified the following as key sectors where we are going to create employment. Please quote me on this one. Number one, agriculture. Number two, infrastructure. Number three, the informal sector. Number four, SMEs. Number five, manufacturing. Number six, small scale and large scale mining, in that order. Why have we placed them in that order? We know that agriculture can be done very easily. But more importantly, that 80% of the population in Zambia is rural, and they still believe and do agriculture for a living. So that's important. We target that. We know for a fact that when you do not have food security, you're in trouble as a nation. So we want to hammer agriculture. But we also know that without the proper road network, the produce will not reach the markets properly. So infrastructure comes in. Now, in Zambia Must Prosper, we are going to promise, and this is a very bold statement, but we want inter-province connectivity to improve. Every province linked to another province must be a dual carriageway. Please listen to that statement. Let it sink in. Every province leading to another province must be a dual carriageway. We want to minimize accidents, but we also want to make sure that our goods and services reach our people at a faster pace. Number 3, we want to ensure that the informal sector is built in such a manner that we undertake to unlock the potential of our youths. Remember where we're coming from. Every youth at school or at work. So we want to know where the youths are going to be in the informal sector. The second wave of attack in trying to unlock the potential of growing employment is that Zambia Must Prosper has a clear vision to ensure that our manifesto is sold to our people. So we have a clear manifesto, which we are launching this year. And watch out for that one.
Okay.
Number 3, we have identified what I am calling as economic laws that we shall need to amend and change. Mark that again. Economic laws. What do I mean, Nathan? The laws that were left by our colonial masters favor, even today, our colonial masters. Please listen to that very carefully. Let it sink in.
Yeah.
And some of these laws that we intend to amend and change include, very important, 1, land laws. Number 2, the banking laws. 3, immigration laws. 4, investment laws. 5, trade and commerce laws. 6, agricultural laws. 7, mining laws. 8, in health insurance laws. And lastly, taxation laws. These laws are what we term as economic laws. Without changing these, because the system of government is based on laws.
Exactly.
If you don't change this, you cannot make your people prosper. Because all these are tailored to Wazungu. I'll give you an example, and please just give me a bit of time here, because this is the Goliath, as you call it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Now, we, in my experience, no names mentioned, okay? Because it will be unprofessional on my part. But in my experience as a lawyer, sitting behind the desk, I've had people die in Australia, people die in Canada, people die in the UK, in Germany, and other places. And suddenly you receive a phone call. Oh, I am so and so and so and so. My father came visiting here, or my great-grandfather came visiting here. I am the son, or I am the grandson. And I'm told that my father or my grandfather has got a will in your office. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 properties in Zambia. We have 10,000, 20,000 hectares of land. You know where I'm going, my brother. But I'm not interested in coming to Zambia. So just sell those things, or I'll arrange to sell those things. You do the nitty-gritties back there in Zambia, pay the taxes, send me the money. So you're remitting $10 million worth of assets after the sale.
Yes.
To this family or young man or young woman somewhere in Australia or in Germany or in England or in Canada, because his grandfather or father has died. He doesn't even know where Zambia is, but he gets $6 million because he has sold property in Zambia, which he has never seen. Whose land is this? This is our land.
Yeah.
Built on our land. Properties built on our land.
Yes.
And he gets rich there without having seen anything here. You know where I'm going.
I get the point you are making. Now my mind is open. I was
Number
wondering
four.
what you was.
You understand where I'm going, right?
Now I get the point.
Thank you. So at the end of the day, people have got investment in Zambia, but they don't live here. Or their parents have got investment here, which attaches to land, our land, but they don't live here. These are absentee landlords.
Yes.
But they can sell our land sitting outside there, get the money, and we do nothing about it. That's
Wow.
why we have to change these economic laws. The banking laws, for example, my brother, in history, you will remember the Dred Scott ruling, if you have any legal history about America. The Dred Scott ruling basically was that a black man in America, a Negro as he was called, is a chattel, is a machine. He had no rights. He had to do what he was told, and etc. Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896 reinforced that, equal but separate. Those are the laws they imported here and left them in our statute books, and we can't see them. We have to dismantle these things. That's why the immigration problems come in. We have to get to the bottom of why we are underdeveloped. It's the legal system. If you can't change these economic laws, Nathan, you will not develop.
It's true.
That's why I'm emphasizing. The fourth point is Zambia Must Prosper will embark on creation of production cities. What are these production cities? Production cities basically means that we want to grow new towns so that we decongest places like Lusaka, Ndola, Kitwe, and other copper belt towns where there's too much population. Now, let me give you an example. If, for example, we decide to grow cotton, we decide to grow tobacco, or we decide to grow sugarcane somewhere in Northwestern Province or somewhere in Chipata or in Muchinga Province, we do not want to sell that raw material, cotton, tobacco, or sugarcane in its raw form. We want that next to the farm that we have developed, there must be a factory for value addition. The moment we do that, what that means is, say we've got 2,000 workers on a farm. We are going to have another 1,000 workers in the factory to work the machines. It means now we've got a community. So we will need residential homes. Those residential homes will mean people will start getting married, families will begin to develop. It means, therefore, that we are going to need a hospital for those people. We are going to need schools for their children. The moment you have a population of that magnitude, my brother, trust me, commerce smells that. Banks will move in. Trading shops will move in. Shopping malls will move in, because then they can see commerce and trade. They'll move to make sure that they take markets to the nearest point where people should not be able to travel too far. So it's basically having new cities. You decongest the towns and get some of these so-called junkies, our youths, off the streets, give them Mama Jumbo working suits, put them in the fields and let them go and do some agriculture so that they can produce food, so that we can be food secure for our country. Production cities will be in the agriculture sector. They will be in the mining sector. They will also be in the manufacturing sector. And the theory is the same. Start with something, value add, you have a community developing, residential accommodation, and then you have the clinics, the hospitals, the police move in, and obviously the shopping malls move in. And every new city that comes, people will be attracted to go there. If you have, for instance, doctors congested at UTH or congested at Ndola Central Hospital, what will stop them going into these new production cities to go and work in those companies as private doctors? Because they'll be paid properly and they'll know the community. They'll have a history for their patients and they'll move on from there. Now, to create all these, for me, in these stages, it means that you are creating a very big base and foundation for the private sector, which will help to fund the public sector. This is where UPND and Zambia Must Prosper again differ. UPND believes that when they employ or recruit teachers, they recruit health workers, that they have created employment.
That's
the
not employment.
Sector, my brother, gives you services. They don't produce anything. It's service. A doctor will give you service. A policeman gives you service. An immigration officer gives you service. A nurse gives you service. What do they produce? Services. Where's the money coming from to pay them? You need to grow the private sector. That's the difference between UPND and Zambia Must Prosper. We have dissected these things and we understand that without this growth in the private sector, the public sector will continue suffering. Just 2 days ago, the president was at Mulungushi Conference Center addressing the controlling officers, the permanent secretaries.
Yes.
And he was complaining 42% of our, income as a nation goes to paying civil servants. But you're not being productive. Bwana, civil servants give you services. And you don't expect them to work for free. Grow the private sector.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
yeah.
He is the economist, Nathan. He is the economist. I'm just a simple lawyer. Now, if an economist can't understand, Bwana, how to attack an economy, how do you expect him to understand how to attack the nation? That's where I have a difference with my friend. We have a problem. So we as Zambia Must Prosper are saying we want to ensure that we attack the private sector, grow the private sector. That's where the taxes come from. Once the taxes get in the kitty of Zambia Revenue Authority, you pay your public workers. That's how it works, not the other way around. So in those stages, I want to be remembered as only one thing, Nathan. God willing, tomorrow I'm ruling this country. The only thing I want Zambians to say is not that I'm the richest president to have lived in Zambia. No. I don't come from a rich family. You know me. What I want Zambians to remember about me is that we had a president who created employment for Zambians and got us out of poverty. Kwamana. Chapwa. Finished. Then I'll go to my farm and rest.
All right. I'm going to dedicate the remainder of our conversation to the questions. Now the audience has woken up. You've provoked them by the things you have said. All right. Let's take some questions.
Sorry, I lost you. Sorry, I lost you. I lost you.
Yeah, I was saying that we're going to dedicate the remainder of the conversation to the questions that our viewers are asking.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask this question myself in a different way. Okay, what's your foreign policy? I had said the HH has been called the puppet of the West. What will be KBF administration's policy? What's your foreign policy?
Zambia Must Prosper, my brother, has always learned from our forefathers, and we don't want to change the policy. We shall be non-aligned.
Okay.
We shall trade with the West, we shall trade with the East, and we shall remain in the middle. We shall not have any favorites here. No. The world doesn't have favorites, not at that level. Because the moment you align to one, the others see you as an enemy. Kaunda knew that with his other 71 countries at the time. They formed the non-aligned movement to make sure that they were able to do business from both sides. And we are able to say the Italians gave us Kariba Dam. We are proud to say that the Chinese have given us the roads. We are good to say that some of the hospitals were built by the Israelis, including the University of Zambia. So we know that where we can get help, we get help. And that's the way business must go. So I, as a president of a party, will not be tied to one section, East or West. No. Zambians will be neutral.
Okay. Non-aligned.
We shall be non-aligned throughout. Okay. And I hope any president coming after me will stick to what our forefathers saw as wisdom.
Okay, that's good. I like Richard's question. How are you going to improve employment in the agriculture sector when we only have one higher learning institution teaching agriculture, NRDC?
Okay, a very good question, Richard. I don't know what his surname is, but Chiviro. Richard, here's an attack. Zambia Must Prosper has already recognized and identified colleges which we want to turn into universities, agricultural colleges. It is about time the NRDC became a university degree college. It is about time the Cooperative College in Lusaka became a degree program college. It is about time the Kaoma College of Agriculture became that, and other colleges dotted around the country. Why is this important? If you go back to what I said, we're making agriculture our #1 priority for job creation. You can't create jobs when you don't have water engineers. I was talking about growing sugarcane here, for example. If we're going to build a production city and we're going to grow sugarcane, we need water engineers. But we also need people who can study the soils and tell us this can work here, this can grow here, etc. And that's how we're going to attack this thing. The UPND does not have a policy on this. And now, for a political party that has been in opposition for over 20 years, it's a serious indictment. It simply means they were rushing to get into government with no vision, no direction, and before you know, they are in government, and it takes them 6 months before they can constitute a cabinet. My brother, that's not how you run government. You must hit the ground running, because from day one, time begins to move. If you're not ready, the people are going to vote you out. And this is what I'm asking the Zambians. See the difference in the policies between Zambia Must Prosper and Hakainde Hichilema. We have thought these things through. UPND did not.
Okay. All right. Charles Daka says, youths have been promised heaven on earth. What is the policy on youths, especially on adoptions of MPs and government appointments?
It is very true that the youths in Zambia have been abused politically. But this is what I'm going to promise our Zambian youths. One area where we think it is very important for youths to get involved is the leadership sector. And if you've read my 2 books on Zambia Must Prosper, you'll understand that we have a plan that immediately after the first 10 years of government, I don't need to be in government. I need to go to my farm and rest. But we must be able to bring on board as many youths who are going to take over the leadership of Zambia Must Prosper and push the agenda. That's the promise I can give the youths. But in politics, my dear youths, it's a quid pro quo situation. And I'm saying to the youths, what are you giving to Zambia Must Prosper? You give us the vote. Come on board. Go and start campaigning now. If you want to be a councillor, start campaigning now. If you want to be an MP, start campaigning now. We shall put you on the ballot. But you must be on the ground. Don't just say no because I know KBF can pick up a ballot. Can pay a nomination. Take your chava. No, we don't work like that. Get to the people.
Excellent. Excellent. Nelly says, I'm curious to know how you intend to tackle the homelessness issue, particularly street kids.
Nelly, my sister, it's a very simple issue. After this, Nathan, please allow me that I send you my 2 books in soft copy so that some of those people, you can give them the books. I am holding the 2 books here. This is Zambia Must Prosper 1, and this is Zambia Must Prosper 2. They're in soft copy, and I'll send them to you. Please read. Understand. If you're a Christian like me, you will understand what the Bible says in Habakkuk. Write the vision down. Make it clear. Part of the difference between me and Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND is we have written our vision down. We have made it very clear what we intend to do for this country. Housing is going to be one of the easiest things to do. I was talking of production cities here, my sister.
Yes.
Follow me again. The moment production cities begin to grow, that's going to invite residential accommodation to be built for the workers. That's how you get rid of these people. You attract them to go where they are supposed to be working and become productive. That's the answer. When our forefathers, our parents, were moving from the Chinsalis, Kasamas, and Luapulas in Chiengi to come and work in Muflira mine, Chingola mine, or Luansha mine, they just left home and said, "Na ako mine in Defwe in Chito." They knew a job was waiting for them. What would stop any farm manager to employ 1,000 youths when they've arrived from town and he knows that this is labor which he can use? That's what we need to do. And those boys will require accommodation. So we'll build them houses. At the farm, they'll get married. They'll be getting paid. Their family begins from there. Now, I'll give you another example. Maybe I'll just mention, for the sake of argument, 3-4 crops. If you're growing peas, you're growing onions, you're growing potatoes, you're growing tomatoes, how many times can you grow these in a year on a crop rotation basis? 3-4 times in a year. Because these crops, within 3 months, 4 months, they mature. So you must sell them. What will stop you from making money? And when you've got a country like Congo, our border here, DRC, with a 1,000 plus kilometer border, and they need food, what would stop you from growing goats, growing chickens, which you can sell across? What would stop you? That's the kind of farming we want to do. And we know that we can do these things, and we can say there are countries which are ravaged by, tsunamis and floods every so often. Just prepare and make sure that you can sell the food there. My brother, I'll say this, Nelly, please listen to me. You can never go wrong with food. Never. And once your food security is secure for your nation, the rest is export. Sell it. Even here, in terms of fish, why can't we have 1,000, 2,000 fish ponds along the Chambeshi-Rwapula River? Why? Because the river just flows. The water just goes. We can. Get the Chinese, get the people from Bangladesh, get the people from Pakistan. They do these things. In Egypt, there's only one river, the Nile River. But they grow fish. Here, we've got the Luapula River, we've got the Chambeshi, and we've got the Kafue, we've got the Zambezi, we've got the Kalungwishi. How many rivers do we have? 40% of Zambia, of Southern African water is in here. And we can't do fish ponds. What kind of farming is this? Farming is in different stages. So those that want to grow pigs, we grow the pigs. Those that want to grow goats, we grow the goats, the chickens. We can sell 20,000, 100,000 eggs, trays of eggs to Kasumbalesa, to Mukambo border every day. The Congolese will eat. The population there is big one. And there, you trade in dollars. What's wrong with that? The mines on the other side in DRC, they need the food every day for the miners. And the population there in Lubumbashi is bigger than here. So first of all, you make yourself food secure, food sufficient. The rest you export. That's how you kill all these things.
All right. Let's read one more question and then I'll ask. Dr. Jones Kasonso says, SMEs are multi-sectoral. Your numbering seems redundant to me. Who are your heroes or notable scholars that inform your ideas on economic development? What's your strategy on geopolitical factors?
I'll put up my books. I'm going to ask again, Nathan. I don't know how much time you have, but please, I'll send these books to you. They're in soft copy. If you can send the doctor some of these books, let him read. I'm sure he's a studious scholar like myself, so he'll understand. But here's a thought. SMEs anywhere in the world are the cornerstones of development. You must understand that. I'll give you an example. Recently, there was a discovery of gold in Mpika, somewhere in Muchinga province. There's a discovery of gold somewhere in Mumbwa. Who are doing the mining there? It's these small-scale miners. It's just the political will to make sure that our people are given the necessary political support, given the infrastructure, and we also make sure that we change the laws to support them. You heard me talk about changing the economic laws here. There's more to do, not just Pakamwa. Doc, I don't want us to misunderstand each other. Please understand, without changing the laws, the SMEs won't work. That's why I mentioned that in passing. We change the economic laws. I have studied these things. I know I've been sitting behind the table doing law for over 35 years. I'm telling you, without changing the law, nothing works because the entire government machinery is built on law. It's a system. You have to change it, attack it from the source, from the base. It's not just theories in the air. So yes, Doc, you may think that our thinking is warped, but I suggest respectfully, read our books. then we can come and engage. And if you want to come and join us, please come and join us. Give us your knowledge. We are open. We are not one of those people that sit here and say we know everything like some people. No, we may not know everything.
Excellent. All right, those of you that would like to follow Mr. Bwalya, I've put his full names there because I know some of you might be interacting with him for the first time. So he's on social media. You can search for him and follow him. That's his social media handle. Final question, KBF.
Shoot.
How does the Zambian diaspora fit in all the Zambia Must Prosper plans, policies, and the vision?
Beautiful question. The first thing is, when we begin to change some of the laws, we want the people in the diaspora to know that we're going to set up a special desk for them in ministries such as Foreign Affairs, in ministries such as the Ministry of Lands, because we know that the biggest problem some of our friends have in the diaspora is coming back home, or at least having to reinvest back home. If you left home 15, 20 years ago, coming back to Zambia, you're going to suffer from what psychologists call a reverse cultural shock. We don't want you shocked. We want you to begin to invest in this country back home. Do you know that with the many Zambians out there, and if we open a special account, for instance, at back of Zambia, where you can be putting some of your funds as people in the diaspora, and you begin to use the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Lands with the special unit, you can buy land. We can give you titles, even whilst you're still outside there. When you come on holidays, come and inspect the land. I know some of you have been duped by fraudsters. You've been giving people money and they've been taking pictures of your neighbors' houses and they're telling you, I'm constructing your house. No, this can be done by government and we can protect you. But more importantly, we also want the technological transfer to come here. What you've learned out there, bring it back here. Invest in your country. You must be proud of your country, Zambians, people in the diaspora. Tuapapata, come back home. If you want to stay there, at least invest home. Then you know that if something goes wrong that side, you're able to come home and you've got apa kufikila, somewhere you can arrive and say, okay, this is my house and I've got no problem here. Also, in terms of employment, Zambia Must Prosper is open. Those people that want to come back and work for government from the diaspora in specialized units, we are open and we are willing to receive you, because there's no need and it's of no use for the Zambian government to have educated you to go out there and be of service to other people when you can't be of service to your own people. Please come and help us. The country needs you, especially those in the scientific fields, in the business areas, and areas of engineering. We need you. We don't want footballers to come back and let them stay there. They can make more money out there. But if they are keeping their money in the banks in England and in the banks in Germany, let them put some of the money here. It will help. It looks small, but with the kind of economy we play with here, it may just change the economy. So the diaspora, I'm asking you with open arms, and I'm saying, join Zambia Must Prosper. We are open for discussion and we are ready for your ideas to fit into what we want to do for the nation.
Excellent. Is KBF going to be on the ballot 2026?
Most definitely, yes. Definitely. We have escorted too many presidents, my brother. It is now time for us to put ourselves on the ballot and ensure that we change the social justice and the moral fiber of this country. Because some of the people we have escorted, you can see, they've just turned out to be liars and, I don't want to go beyond that.
Okay. Well, that was our conversation today.
Nathan, please allow me a last statement.
All right, please. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I am looking forward to meeting the diaspora this spring, between April, May, June. I'm traveling to the States
Okay.
This will be in connection and in conjunction with Zambia Association Network of the United States. And I know that we can come and have some of these discussions one-on-one.
Yes.
We can come and engage, and would also like to see how you can get involved in Zambia Must Prosper and how we can engage you and pick your ideas. So this spring, we're coming to the United States, and we'll be there for more discussions and what you in the United States like to call town hall meetings.
Okay.
So I'm open for that.
Excellent. All right.
Thank you.
We shall be disseminating information here when Mr. Bwalya is traveling to the United States and which cities and states that he's going to visit. Brilliant idea, my brother. I know you were always a clever person. Well, look, Kelvin, I do not take this lightly. Thank you for taking the time and for doing this. First, I also like to commend your team, Muiza and Nonde. Very efficient, brilliant. They are tops. And our brother Jimmy, of course, for what he's doing there and working on. I look forward to us engaging more. There's a lot to talk about. You can see
I'll come and visit you. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. All right, everybody. That was our show today. Mr. Kelvin KBF, President for Zambia Must Prosper. You've heard for yourself, those of you that live in the US, is going to make a tour for town hall meetings, and we look forward to that. We shall keep you informed and posted here. Next week, we are going to talk about Zambia being a Christian nation and all these toxic things that are going on, all the papas that have risen up and are creating confusion and simply duping people. Thank you, everybody. You do have a great weekend, and it's always a joy for you to join us.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.